The India-USA tariff dispute has escalated dramatically in recent weeks, triggered by the United States imposing steep tariffs on Indian exports. President Donald Trump announced a 25% tariff hike, later doubled to 50%, targeting nearly all Indian goods entering the U.S. market. The stated reason: India's continued imports of Russian crude oil, which Washington claims undermines global efforts to isolate Moscow amid the Ukraine conflict. This move has strained bilateral ties and disrupted trade flows worth billions. India responded swiftly and firmly, calling the tariffs unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable. The Ministry of External Affairs emphasized that India's energy decisions are driven by market needs and national security, not politics. Indian officials pointed out that many Western nations, including European allies of the U.S., continue to import Russian oil. They also reminded Washington that the U.S. had previously encouraged Indian purchases to stabilize global energy markets during the early stages of the war. The tariffs affect a wide range of Indian exports, including textiles, gems, pharmaceuticals, and auto parts, industries that collectively contribute over $87 billion to India's export economy. Industry groups in India have warned that the new tariffs could jeopardize up to 55% of exports to the U.S., threatening thousands of jobs and small businesses. The dispute has sparked fears of a broader trade war, with ripple effects across global supply chains. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has taken a strong stance, declaring that India will not compromise on its national interests or the welfare of its farmers. In a recent speech, he emphasized that India is prepared to pay any price to protect its sovereignty. Modi's remarks were widely interpreted as a direct response to Trump's pressure tactics, especially given the U.S. president's repeated public criticisms of India's economic policies and strategic alignments. Diplomatic efforts are underway to de-escalate the situation. India and the U.S. have entered a 21-day negotiation window to resolve the dispute, with talks focused on finding a mutually beneficial solution under the bilateral trade agreement framework. Indian negotiators are pushing for tariff rollbacks and assurances that future trade decisions will be based on economic logic rather than geopolitical coercion. The dispute has also drawn international attention. Leaders from Brazil, Canada, and China have criticized the U.S. for its aggressive trade stance. Brazilian President Lula da Silva rejected Trump's overtures and pledged to work with India and China to challenge the tariffs through the World Trade Organization. Canada, too, faces new U.S. tariffs and has expressed solidarity with India's position, citing concerns over sovereignty and fair trade practices. Underlying the tariff conflict is a deeper geopolitical rift. Trump has linked the trade penalties not only to Russian oil, but also to India's membership in BRICS and its refusal to support U.S.-led sanctions. He has even suggested secondary sanctions on other countries that maintain ties with Russia. This has raised alarms in New Delhi, which views its foreign policy as independent and non-aligned, especially in matters of energy and defense. The timing of the dispute is particularly sensitive. Just months ago, Modi and Trump had pledged to double bilateral trade to $500 billion by 2030. Now that goal seems increasingly out of reach. The breakdown in negotiations is attributed to a mix of strategic misalignment, domestic political pressure, and Trump's unpredictable diplomacy. India has remained restrained in its public responses, hoping that cooler heads will prevail. Public sentiment in India is growing more nationalistic, with many viewing the tariffs as an affront to the country's dignity. Media outlets and political leaders have called for retaliatory measures, including tariffs on U.S. goods and a review of defense and tech partnerships. While India values its relationship with the U.S., there is a growing consensus that it must assert its autonomy in global affairs. Ultimately, the India-USA tariff dispute reflects the complex interplay of trade, geopolitics, and national identity. As both nations navigate this standoff, the outcome will likely shape not just bilateral relations, but also the future of global trade norms. Whether diplomacy can overcome economic brinkmanship remains to be seen, but the stakes are undeniably high.